So welcome back to the SWAU's official channel. My name's Bryan, your host, and this is a conversation with the stars. And we've got a great guest. He is an artist. He has contributed towards SWAU's Artist Series as well. Please welcome to the show, Jay Manchand. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hello, hello. Nice to be here.
Oh, you know what? It's an absolute pleasure to have you on because I've seen you on the UK convention circuit quite a few times. And your artwork is just literally breathtaking. So we're going to talk about your artwork, how you got to where you are now, and a bit about the SWAU Artist Series that people are going crazy for at the moment. But first of all, I mean, for anyone watching this, it's not a secret that you're a Star Wars fan.
I think there might be a hint. Yeah.
There is a bit. What is it about Star Wars that tickles your fancy? What is it about, you know, lightsabers and the dark side that really got you excited about the franchise?
Funnily enough, it was neither of those things. So for me growing up, I was introduced to your Empire Strikes Back and your A New Hope at a young age, and I wasn't really that bothered by them. They were fine movies. I could enjoy them enough. And then I was shown Return of the Jedi. And that first half an hour of all the weird-looking aliens in the background, your Jabba the Hutts, the Salacious Crumbs, the Gamorrean guards, that stuff. I used to, when the sail barge exploded at the end, I would rewind it back to the beginning and play it again. So it was always the weirder side of Star Wars for me.
But it's great, wasn't it? All these aliens, I mean, God knows how they came up with all of these sort of costumes. And I've said it quite a few times before on my own show that my wife's auntie was actually in Star Wars. She actually played the character. She shared it with Rusty Coffee. There's a character called Gabe, which is the bat-looking character in the cantina. Yeah, so that was part...
I have the action figure.
There we go. So that was part my wife's auntie that was in that costume, and she was credited for being Aunt Beru, which is really weird. And apparently, on one of the celebration panels with George Lucas, they were talking about it, around the story about it, because people couldn't, you know, find out who played Aunt Beru or something like that, which is astonishing. Yeah. But you know what? It took 3 years of us being married before she mentioned it. And I was like...
Something you have to ease into. You don't just bring that up at once.
And I was like, what? You know, so, no, it's great. I mean, obviously, Star Wars, I think, is in everyone's sort of, you know, collection in some way or form. But how many figures do you actually own? Have you counted them?
I've not counted in a good few years. Most of the modern vintage collection and almost all of the Black Series.
And would you say that it's a crime to get them out the box?
Absolutely not. Every single thing here, it's been opened and then carefully put back in the box to maintain the look.
Because there are people out there, and people probably watching this video right now, that would wince at the idea of opening that box and getting those figures out, because they'll say, no, it devalues the value of it. But you know what, you've got to enjoy it as long as you don't damage it.
They're toys.
So, yeah.
They're toys to be played with.
So what got you into art? What was it about art that you know got you excited? Because what age did you start at?
As soon as I could hold colouring pencils, I was scribbling away nonsense, whether it was drawing Thomas the Tank Engine or flowers in a garden. It was just human nature to me. It was the first thing. It was my way of expressing what I was enjoying at the time on paper. So as soon as Star Wars came along, from about 6 or 7, I was drawing Star Wars characters.
Wow.
Badly.
What age did you realize, actually, I'm actually really good at this? And did you get any like feedback from family and friends? And what age did you actually think, you know what, I want to make a career of this?
So it was funny. I always had encouragement from friends and family, you know, drawings stuck to the fridge kind of thing. It was always encouraged and nurtured rather than a computer game for Christmas. I'd be happier with a pack of colouring pencils or colouring pens or something like that. but I didn't really think that there was anything in it career wise for quite a long time, actually. I went to college, studied art at college level, and then I went and got a regular full time job in retail. And
No.
you get used to adult money, and you get stuck in the rut of retail. And I was just like, this just really isn't for me. And I kept thinking, the only thing I really love doing is drawing. Didn't know how or what I wanted to do, but I knew I loved drawing and painting. And funnily enough, I probably didn't pick up a paintbrush for about 5 or 6 years. And one day I was trying to give up smoking, and I thought I need something to distract me for a little while. So I went out and bought the cheapest pack of acrylic paints you could find, and one canvas, and I sat and I just painted a chameleon because I had a pet chameleon at the time, and I painted it. And I looked at it afterwards, and I thought, wow, I'm actually still able to do this, and better than I did before. So it kind of snowballed from there, and I just kept doing paintings, and I started doing sort of community based things with the artwork. I was doing reptile pet portraits for people and selling them, and I was sending them to America. I'm in the UK. Sending artwork to America at the age of 19, 20 was crazy to me. So it was then I sort of realised there is something here, and I can't spend my life doing a job I don't want to do. So I applied to go to university to study fine art. And it was in August, I emailed the university and I said, hi, I've got a portfolio of work I've just been building up for you, and I'd like to submit to join the university in September. And they emailed me back and said, that's not how this works. They said you have to fill out UCAS forms
Yeah.
and you have to apply in February and do all these things. And I was like, but I really want to start now. And if I don't start now, I might never start. So I emailed again and I said, can I send you a portfolio? And they said, no, you have to apply in February. So I emailed again and I said, no, here's my portfolio, actually. Have a look. And the email back I got was, we've accepted you onto the fine art course. So,
Wow. Wow.
yeah.
So you went from painting frogs to
Yeah.
painting Grogu, which is a similar
Quite
sort
similar.
of
Yeah.
similar. They're both green and they both look
Yeah.
froggish in a way. But thank goodness you didn't get institutionalized in retail, because you get those
Yeah.
positions where people, as you say, adult money, they get stuck in their own ways. But you feel that break that you had, helped you a lot with your art, because do you feel that there's such thing as a burnout for artists where you're continuously doing it and you need a bit of a break, or was that not the case?
See, I think circumstantial for me, it was I had the break because I had to earn a living
Mm,
at the time. I'd moved out, so I needed to pay the money to put a roof over my head, and it just wasn't conceivable that I could earn money doing artwork. But that break gave me the time to realize, actually, no, I don't want to spend my entire life doing a job I don't love. And there was a clear path there for me. I could have gone up to management and all that kind of thing, and dabbled in a few of those roles along the years. And it just never, nothing ever hit with me. So I just put all my eggs into the art basket and said, I'm going to make this work. And that's why I've never felt burnout
mm,
since I've started up again. I think because I've worked a job I don't like and I know what that feels like.
mm.
So to me, every single day that I am able to sit here and paint something as stupid as Grogu, for a living, earn money from that, I'm never going to get burnout from that. Never.
And also, you're obviously painting and drawing things that you're a fan of. So, if you
Exactly.
enjoy your work, it never feels like work. I mean, a lot
Exactly.
of actors when they start out, they aspire to be certain actors. They look up to people like Denzel Washington and Viola Davis and people like that. Have you got artists that you look up to that you think are absolutely amazing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as a Star Wars fan, your number one is Ralph McQuarrie. I mean, Star Wars looks like Star Wars because of Ralph
Mm,
McQuarrie. And then You've got the Drew Struzans who are making the Star Wars art posters. I had the pleasure of was a guest artist at Wales Comic Con a couple of years back, and another one of the guest artists was Paul Shipper. And anyone who knows Paul Shipper knows he's done some of the most incredible Blu-ray posters for Star Wars and Indiana Jones and all these kinds of things. Um, so I mean, I was talking to him for the weekend, and I got a little bit emotional. I was like, I've met actors from some of my favorite movies. I've met some of the most incredible people, but seeing an artist and being able to be sat with an artist that I'd looked up to for years, who was doing exactly what I wanted to do, yeah, that was a pretty special moment.
And that was the convention that I saw you at
Oh,
Wales. Well,
really?
yeah, Telford. It's Wales Comic Con, but it's in Telford, not in
Yeah,
Wales, but it's
it's a weird one.
across the
Yeah.
border. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's not around anymore. That Comic Con. So
No.
it's stopped now, unfortunately. So how has your artistic style evolved from, say, your early works to what you do now? What has been the biggest sort of change for you in how your art looks?
I think the day I found oils was the day that it all just kind of fit into place for me. I'd dabbled through the years. I've done pencils. When I first started doing the sketch cards for Tops, I didn't know anything about sketch cards. I didn't know what they were, how you did them. I just knew what a sketch was. So there was me doing pencil sketches, not realizing that other artists were doing full blown acrylic paintings on them and things like that. Um, so yeah, I started doing things like pencils, which I've never enjoyed grayscale work. I like the sketching of a painting that I'm going to do, but that's where the line ends, and then I have to move on to something a bit more kind of, I don't know. There's something about the texture of paint, of mixing paint on a palette. I've tried acrylics; they dry far too quickly for my liking. I like to take my time with things. And I like how forgiving oils can be. But people always said along the way, oh, oils, yeah, it's the process is a nightmare. You don't want to get into oils. It's such a mess. And I agree with all of those things. It is a nightmare and it is a mess, but it suits my style.
Wow. And the next question is going to be an odd one because you've got quite a few tattoos.
I
And
do.
I was thinking to myself, right, when I was preparing for this interview, you being such an artistic person and into art and everything like that, how picky were you when you were choosing your tattoos? And how picky were you to choose the artist that did your tattoos?
So the quick answer to that question is not very picky at all. I was a young tearaway and had silly tattoos at silly ages that I look fondly on now because they remind me of silly
Yeah.
summers I spent with my friends. But I mean, the stuff on my arm, I've had these for years and they're not the best. But then I got a Star Wars sleeve done by I don't know if you can see that very well, by a local artist at the time, and I saw his style, and I just said, "Yeah, that's the guy for me." And I want Star Wars, and I finally was ready to fully embrace the nerd within.
Oh, do you know what I'm looking forward to? I'm going to get a Superman sleeve,
Ooh, nice.
but I want it in grayscale, but like with the
Yeah.
kryptonite being green and maybe
Okay.
the shield being in the colors. But I don't know what to have. I'm a massive Christopher Reeve fan, so maybe
Yeah.
something to honor that man. But we're talking about obviously, stuff that you've done recently, and there was a show that aired. It's episode 2. I think it was last night or the night before, and it's The Last of Us. And you did an absolutely epic, and I'm going to bring it up on the screen, an epic painting here of The Last of Us. I mean, have you seen it yet? Have you seen the first 2
Not
episodes?
the last 2 episodes, not yet. No,
Oh.
I was going to save them all and binge them, but I'm starting to get a bit nervous of spoilers, so I might
To be
have
honest,
to
I have never played
readdress
the
that
game.
plan.
I've never played the game, so I don't know how the story's going to go. So
Yeah.
emotionally, I'm not prepared to what I see on screen. So episode 2 of the second season, I was shocked at. That's all I'm going to say. I wasn't prepared. But talking about this, Pedro there and Bella, she is a local girl to me. She's from Nottingham, which is
Yeah.
is is great for some local talent to be so high up there on HBO. how long did this take, and what style would you say this is in? Because it always astonishes me. Art always makes me stop, think, and admire, because it's sort of one of those things where, it's like very photorealistic, but it's not in a way, but it's very like the shadows and just the textures. I mean, how long did it take to paint this painting?
So that was a tricky one, actually. Bella has got a really interesting face
Mm,
to paint. She's got a very distinct look, instantly recognizable. Whether it's Game of Thrones or The Last of Us, you know it's Bella as soon as you look at her. But to paint, there's nothing really that stands out. Like with Pedro, there's lots of creases in his
yeah.
brow, and there's his under eyes and things like that. There's lots of different details that I can kind of mimic well enough. But the Bella took me a very long time, and I think for the entire painting, it probably. So normally, what I'll do is I'll start with a sketch, and that can take anywhere between half an hour and 3 hours, depending on the scale of the piece and the kind of how much detail I'm going to put into the sketch. Then I'll do an underpainting, and that's just with one color, usually a burnt umber, and that's where it's sort of like just a brown wash. So what that does for artists is that helps you to establish values, which is your light and your dark, and kind of serves as like a base layer to the
Mm.
painting, and really helps me when I'm painting to identify where my shadows are mapped out and things like that. And that doesn't usually take too long. That's usually about an hour or two. But then the color part, and then that's where I can spend anything between an hour on a face and 10 hours. It just depends. I mean, the hair on Pedro, I spent a phenomenal amount of time doing that. Just each tiny little wisp and flick of a grey stroke in his hair.
I mean, how much, at what point do you say that's it, it's finished? Or is it a case of you're always looking at it going, oh, I think this needs a bit more work, or I need to do this? I mean, at what point do you say, do you know what, it's done?
So I usually have a little system where I'll go to take my final photograph, and I'll take it, and then I'll go, oh no, I just need to, just tiny little touch there. And then I'll say, right now I'm ready to take the final photograph. So I'll take that. And then I'm like, oh no, no. And that'll go on for about 5 or 6 times until I'm like, no, I'm actually done now. Yeah. So to be fair, I'm usually good at cutting it off and knowing when not to push it too far, because it can be that line between tweaking it to make it perfect, and
Mm.
then just sometimes you can lose a likeness if you then try and push it too far.
And where is this now? Was this done as a promotional piece, a commission piece? I mean, where is this original painting now?
I still have the original painting with me. I have a folder of very large paintings that I take to conventions. Sometimes I display them, sometimes I sell them, sometimes I just like to show them. That it's nice for some people at conventions to see not just the smaller sketch card things that are on a table, but also like to see that I can do a larger scale painting as well.
Mm. I mean, as well as the
So
Last of Us, it wouldn't be right to not show a great image from a Star Wars series, which is The Mandalorian, which I've got to say is one of my favorite series of all time. And on
mine too.
SWAU's channel, I've had the privilege of interviewing Brendan Wayne, the man inside the suit, for 95% of the time. I mean,
Yeah.
how enjoyable is it to, get a chance? I mean, how do you choose what you actually draw and paint? Is it something that just comes to you, or do you think, you know what, today I'm going to work on this, or today I'm going to work on something else?
I think it depends. With the nature of some of these television shows, they have sort of the iconic shots.
Mm,
Some of these shows just have that one shot that everyone's talking about and that everyone's looking at. I think this was one of those shots, and it's kind of a race to which artist's going to do it first. But for me, I tend not to go for so much so the obvious images, I tend to go for, I look at lighting is my first go-to. That's probably what I would identify as my strength with painting, is probably light work within, especially like reflective surfaces. So Mandalorian helmet.
Oh.
So that one had the perfect balance of the beautiful lighting on the helmet, but also, as we were talking about me painting frogs, there's Grogu there, so I get to do that real textured work of his face with the little hairs. And so really, that was an image that just kind of showed off all the different things that I'm able to do with paint.
I mean, it's crazy. I've seen quite a few of your images of the Mandalorian helmet, and the reflections. When you zoom in, you can see sort of how you've sort of done it. But then when you zoom out, it's just amazing. It just, you wouldn't even guess, and it's just a talent in itself. I mean, what would you say was your first major breakthrough within your career? I mean, is there a certain time, a certain job, a situation that you went through that you thought that this is the start of something for me?
I think it was when I did my first painting with oils, my first large scale painting with oils of Grogu. When it was from the from the trailer for season 2. It was the moment where he presses the button and the shield on his buggy goes down, but there's just a side shot of him sort of looking like that and his little hand. And I remember seeing that in the trailer and thinking, God, the colours in that are incredible. I have to paint it. But I just wasn't able, I just knew with acrylics and acrylic gouaches, which I was using at the time, I just knew I wasn't going to be able to get that depth from it. So I said, right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to break through and I'm going to do oils and I'm going to try it. And really looked up, watched tutorials of how people really paint with them, building layers, all that kind of thing. And then I thought, well, I'm just going to try it and just do it how I would do it. If I was painting with oils for the first time, which I'd kind of dabbled a little bit with them, but I thought, just really throw any ideas you have out of the window of how you paint with acrylics. Forget all of that, because none of it's going to be relevant here. As long as you've got the right materials, just do it and see what happens. I did that, and at the time, that was the most successful painting I'd ever done. And I thought, this is it. This is the one. It's oils.
And the next step was you're working with Lucasfilm, which I think is
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, how did that I can't even say the word. How did that partnership come about for you working with Lucasfilm?
So the first thing was doing the sketch cards for tops. Obviously, that is work that's approved by Lucasfilm. That is official in its own capacity. It is official Star Wars art. So I've done those for many years now. I've done them for, it must be about 9 years. So I'd kind of trundled along at a pace doing them. At this point, I've probably done about 2,500 sketch cards for them.
Wow. Wow.
And here and there, every sort of couple of years, I would submit to Acme Archives, who are the official licensee holder for Star Wars prints, so fine art prints. At art school, at the university, they tried to push me towards doing illustration, and I kept saying no. I'm staying on fine art because I am a fine artist. I'm a traditional based artist, and what I want to do is prints of art, like art prints, ideally for Star Wars, which everyone there said probably not feasible. Maybe set your expectations a little lower.
How little did they know? The demand
I
for
know,
it.
yeah. Yeah, and then so I'd been doing the sketch cards for years, and I'd apply to Acme Archives every now and again, and I wouldn't hear anything back, and I'd get, oh, didn't make it this time, kind of thing. And then I sent them a submission concept of a Kenobi portrait that I did. It was a large piece, and it was just the portrait of Ewan McGregor from the television series. And I got a reply from them, and they said, it's not really the sort of thing we'd go for, but we really like the artwork. And I thought, well, that's a step forward. That's something. So I sent them another concept a couple of months later, and I didn't hear anything back, and I was a bit disappointed. And it was 2 years ago when it was Star Wars Celebration in London. And it was in April, and I went down there. I had a couple of guys in the Celebration art show that I knew, that I was friends with. One of them, Joe Hogan, you probably recognise his artwork. Had a great chat with him, and he said, right, I'm going to introduce you to the guy who runs this. So we went over and introduced me. He said, oh, you're Jay, hi, nice to meet you and everything. And I said, oh, this is the submission I sent you. And he said, oh, did we not get back to you about that? And I said, oh, no. And he said, oh, no, sorry, we're interested. We're going to get back to you. And I said, oh, great, perfect. That submission, I think, on every level wasn't the right character for the right time, wasn't the right piece, but we had reached a point where I wanted to work with them, they wanted to work with me, so it was just finding the right thing. And instead of me thinking, now what do they want to see? What would they want me to paint? I thought, I'm a Star Wars fan, right? Like, just paint what I want to paint. Yeah. So I picked my favorite character. Thought maybe, there might be a few people that like her as well, Ahsoka Tano, and sent a submission concept, just a little pencil drawing, and they said, yeah, that's the one, we'll send it off to Lucasfilm for approval.
Wow.
And then it happened, and I actually have it right here. I was planned for this one.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And you had I saw on your social media you had a comic signed as well by the voice actor that does the voice. Am I right in saying that?
That was a previous comic cover that I'd done for a friend, and they'd gone and got it signed. So I wasn't there to get it signed, but I saw the results afterwards. And it's always nice to see people that have, portrayed these characters that I've either grown up with loving or really enjoy now, and to know that they've actually kind of seen my artwork in the flesh that's quite a nice feeling.
I mean, seeing all this artwork is absolutely amazing, and I'm sure there's going to be people out there that is watching this thinking, how can I get my hands on some of this wonderful artwork? So, how do we get our hands on a bit of Jay? How do we get our hands on your art so we can have them, showing grace on our walls? So what can we do to put money in your pocket, Jay?
So the best way for the licensed print is, if you're in the States, you can go directly to the Acme Archives store. In the UK, it's available on Pulse Gallery. If you go to my Instagram, I have a link tree and all the links for all the places you can order these. Other than that, I mean, originals at conventions. I love talking to people. I love going to these conventions, doing a little bit of live painting here and there, interacting with people, and sometimes they get to go away with a little portrait painting that I've got with me. Alternatively, you should be getting on these SWAU Art Series.
Yeah, and this is what we're going to be talking about next. So SWAU Artist Series, which I think are absolutely incredible, because not only can people get a great autograph from their favorite actor in the character, but you're getting an original piece of art. So how did you get involved with SWAU's Artist Series?
So I'm friends with Candy Staley, who's also on the series, and Seth Groves, and they kind of said, Jay, we've got a spot here, and they recommended me, which was, it was incredible for them to think of me. Was really touching.
So
and I've got a great friendship with them.
Yeah, the artists in this collection is just, jaw dropping. I mean, what goes into making one of these sort of unique pieces of art? Because I've got a picture of one here. So, for example, there's no, not that one. See, technology. There we go. I've got one here. So there we go. So that is Hondu, which is the Michael Rooker one. I mean, what sort of work goes into something like that?
So that one, it's very similar to my normal painting style. So I would start with a sketch, very light, just kind of mapping key points, key features. And then I would go in with the underpainting, let that dry for a couple of days, and then it's colours. But I also have to, a little piece of paper taped very, very carefully around the autograph because it's already signed when it gets to me.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, the pressure.
Yeah.
The pressure, Jay, on
Yes.
you to do
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Oh, can you imagine if you just use the wrong tape? I had an incident last night, funnily enough. I was unframing some signed pictures and the tape had stuck to the actual picture. So as I was taking it off, it took some of the picture with it and it broke my heart. But imagine. But I mean, it must be great to see you. I mean, what does it feel like to actually make these pieces of art that have been signed by the character that you know that signed it? It must be quite surreal and rewarding as well that you're adding to this one of a kind piece.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it is a pressure, but it's also an honor. Like when you're sat there with a Chris Hemsworth autograph and the guys at SWAU have said, we want you to do artwork on it. It is pressure, but it's an honor. It's such a privilege to be able to get to do that. There's thousands of artists that would love to do this, and so I am incredibly grateful, incredibly blessed to be able to do that.
And it's very lucky for the people that buy these because obviously, working for Tops, working for Lucasfilm, you're quite high up in what you do. So to have a piece of art that's original, I'm sure that if you sold a commission piece, it wouldn't be for a few quid. It would be for quite a few more. So getting something like this for the price it is, I think is fantastic. And I can't wait for future series to come out. It'd be great if you could do one for David Corenswet, the new Superman. That would be a bit awesome.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
If he could sign, I'm going to try and get SWAU to try and do a private signing. But has there been any sort of fan interactions, on your social media around this series in particular?
Always. I mean, for starters, it sells out within minutes of it going live every time. It doesn't matter whether it's a Marvel set, a Star Wars set, whatever the topic, this just seems to fly off the shelves, which is, I mean, it's great. And I often get tagged in posts of people that have pulled a card and that they weren't expecting. Sometimes it's a character that they aren't even bothered by, but they like the artwork and they're like, I'm going to add this to my collection. Don't really know who it is, but I like the card, so thank you. Yeah, it's amazing.
And which has been your most rewarding to actually create from the series so far for you?
Oh, that's a tough question. So I actually wrapped up a set yesterday.
Oh,
that is literally to the left of me, right here, drying as we speak.
We love exclusives, Jay. Just waft it across the screen really quick.
Just
and then
knock the camera.
People are pausing the video.
Yeah. And I'm really, really pleased with how these turned out. And I hope that people like them as much as I do.
Oh, so yeah. So we've got to get on that as soon as it gets announced. But looking back, yes. I mean, what advice would you give any aspiring artists wanting to, I know, following your footsteps? I mean, what's the best bit of advice that you could give someone in that position?
First of all, don't take no for an answer. If someone says no, they don't want to look at your portfolio, don't take that and show them anyway. Because it might be that they just have that answer, that they just say no. Like my university just said, no, we don't look at portfolios. Show them anyway. Take the risk and just send it to them. The worst they're going to do is say no. The best they're going to do is ignore the rules and take you on the course anyway. And my other advice would be, no matter how much people could tell you that what you want to do with your career may not be realistic, may not be feasible. You may not be able to be a Lucasfilm artist. You might have to settle for something less. If you've got the drive, the passion, and the willpower to do it, and if you want it enough, then do it. You can.
And how do you keep motivated? Because I'm sure, like with any career, there's ups and downs. So, what keeps you going?
This room, for starters.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, just walking into this room in the morning is, I look around and it's just a room filled with stuff that I love, and I get to sit in here and paint all day. So, I think, but I do think that's important to remind yourself of the thing that you're passionate about. If ever there are times where I'm getting a little, oh, I don't know what to do next, I'll go and put on Return of the Jedi and watch that first half an hour again, and it will remind me of just how much I love it. Or I'll see a new screenshot of something that I've not painted before, or I don't know, a landscape that I'm seeing from a different angle for the first time. Yeah, just reinvigorate yourself with the thing you love.
And is there a franchise that you haven't, put your hands to yet that you might in the future?
There is one that I recently did a comic cover painting of, which is my secret favorite franchise alongside Star Wars, which is Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Excellent. I love Buffy.
Which is
Buffy.
An odd one.
No, it's very good. I've seen a picture of it. I haven't got one.
Oh, thank you.
I haven't got one. I was going to bring it up then. I thought, have I got that? I've got the Dharma one, which I thought was excellent. But Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I mean, again, it's coming back out, isn't it? So it's going to have a, resurgence. So it's going to come back on our screens. So I don't know how that's going to work, but no, it's quite nice. I mean, apart from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I mean, is this sort of any franchise that you want to get involved with? Like Disney, or is it a case that it's things that you love, and is that the difference? In painting what you love, opposed to maybe painting something that you're not a real fan of personally?
So I used to think that way. I kind of used to say, no, I think once you get the thing that you want to do, you kind of, right, I'm never going to let this go. I'm doing Star Wars art. This is what I wanted. I'm never going to do anything else. And over the years, I've kind of thought, no, it's actually quite exciting to try different things, and sometimes to even just push myself outside of my comfort zone. Up until, this is probably shameful to admit, up until lockdown, I'd never even seen a Marvel film.
Wow.
And then I know. And then there was lockdown and we had nothing better to do, so I watched them all, loved them. But had I not watched them, I probably wouldn't have been as bothered about painting them for SWAU. But then there's been other times where I got invited to do The Walking Dead for Tops, and I'd never seen it. But I don't like to use the kind of, your standard sort of promotional images, like your poster images. I tend not to use them very often. So I like to know the character a little bit, so I know what kind of expression is going to be the one that represents them well. So naturally, I went out and bought the entire box set of The Walking Dead and binged the whole lot. So whilst I may not, sometimes I've been a fan of something and then I've gotten the chance to work on it. And sometimes I've gotten the chance to work on it and then I've become a fan of it.
I mean, looking into the future, say in 30, 40 years, how would you like to be remembered as an artist in 30, 40 years' time?
Wow. Just as an artist that... that's a difficult one. Just an artist that put out work of things he loved. I'd like to have... Sure, there are things I would like to do, like I would absolutely love to do Star Wars art for book covers. That would be a dream come true. I'm a big Star Wars book reader, so to walk into a bookshop, walk into Waterstones and pick up my book off a shelf would be amazing. But I think there's enough of my artwork out there now, and I'm not planning on stopping anytime soon,
Good.
that just knowing that there's going to be a lot of households that have these tiny little cards, just a little piece of me, just in their collection.
It's incredible. Really is. What conventions have you got planned for the year? Are you going to many?
I'm not doing a whole lot this year. I've tried to start scaling them down a little bit. He says I only do about 4 a year anyway.
That's quite a few.
my my trouble is, I mean, there are these phenomenal artists. I don't know how they do it, but they go to conventions every weekend throughout the year, and I don't know how you do it. You pack everything on a Wednesday, have a meltdown and travel on the Friday, and then you get back on the Sunday night and you need to pass out for 24 hours, and then you're doing it all over again the following. I don't know. I don't know how they do it, but hats off to them. I need a full calendar month to recover after my conventions. I've got one at the end of May that is still to be properly announced. So I'll just say keep an eye on my socials. At the end of May, there should be one.
Well, fingers crossed. It'd be nice to see you at one of them to actually get a chance to walk by and say hello, because you're always really busy. I'm going to be going to the London Film and Comic Con in, I think it's July, which is going to be a big one. There's lots of Star Wars and Mandalorian guests there, so I'm excited about that. So I cannot wait. But Jay, you've been a great guest. I'm going to put all your links and everything on the video below. Anything that you do in the future, give me a shout. I will shout it out on the channel because it's great to support someone so talented like yourself. And I look forward to seeing what art comes out next. And fingers crossed, I can get my hands on some in the future.
Thank you very much. Yeah, keep an eye. There's some very exciting things coming out soon.